That's what I like to hear, Loki. It's finally launch weekend for Terraria 1.4, and in the spirit of change, out with the old, in with the new. This will be the last time you see me playing Terraria 1.3. I'm a little wistful about that, but I think it's time to say goodbye to this dusty old world. The housing changes are no doubt going to make for a pretty Terraria world in 1.4, and so there's frankly no need to keep this old place around. So here we go. Now, as you may know, Terraria Journey's End's changelog is out in a post made by no other than Loki himself. And it's huge, like War and Peace huge. This changelog is enormous. And thankfully, he's provided us with some of the key changes and, of course, a table of contents so that we don't have as much trouble hunting down the information we want to find out. But as with anything this extensive, there are some nuggets of interest buried within that haven't been mentioned that obviously, and so I've mined the text file itself for those nuggets of information I think are worth mentioning. So, if you're still waiting for the patch to hit on your particular version of Terraria, if you're curious about the changes, look no further. Let's dive in. Now first, the major additions. I think these are all worthy of their own videos, but I'll just do a quick run-by of them. There's Journey Mode, which is kind of like a modified creative mode that they've added to the game. Check out an earlier video I've posted for details on that. Master Mode, I never made a video for this, but essentially it's a kind of super duper challenge mode. It's very, very difficult, almost sadistically difficult, not for the faint of heart. There's also an NPC revamp, which includes some new NPCs, and more interestingly, some new housing rules for the NPCs. They don't want to live all in one place anymore. They want to live in separate biomes and smaller communities, and to accommodate that, they're adding a crystal transport system for ease of travel between those biomes. Again, there's a video I've made on this channel for that if you're curious. Another major addition is the golf game. Very strange addition, but not unwelcome. Again, I made a video on that. There's also a bestiary. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's really for the obsessive compulsive collectors out there. It's a nice little addition for completionists. And then what I would say is the last major change included are all these beautiful wind effects and additional weather effects like thunderstorms. So those are the major additions, but what about all that sneaky stuff I said I would dig out of the text file? Well, let's go through that right now. The patch log included Terraria now has a brand new series of intro splash screens and an intro sequence. So that's certainly a welcome change. Redigit himself has said that load times should be improved as well, since we're on the topic of loading the game. Next up, I found that they've added a variety of ambient background objects in the sky. So a little bit of extra flavor never hurts. Depending on how many they've added, maybe some are rarer, I don't know. Maybe there's some Easter eggs that are going to be floating around in the sky. I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. Next up, we have added uncommon thunderstorm ambient weather. I did mention this in the wind and weather changes. I'm a big fan of this one. I have to say I've loved video game thunderstorms ever since the beginning of A Link to the Past. They just add nice ambiance to the game. Next thing I found is added a chance for Meteor Showers, which dramatically increase falling star rates. Added new falling star animations in the sky. And there are now many more stars in the night sky. So, if you're the type to hide underground at night to avoid those zombies, well, at least for one night, maybe this is a reason to go adventuring. Added underground gem trees. Now, this makes zero sense, but it does beg a question. Do you chop these things down with an axe or a mind pick? It's a little bit of a mystery. And then again, if you chop them down, do they drop gems? Curious about that one. I guess I'm just going to have to find out. Next up, music. They have talked about this, but I just want to show all of these. I'm not going to read them, but you can see from the list, they've added a huge number of new tracks to the game, and I've always been a fan of the kind of chiptune style background music for Terraria. I really hope that these are up to snuff. I hope they're up to par with all the other tracks we're familiar with, but I guess that remains to be seen. I'm pretty optimistic though. They've been saying good things about it. Additionally, they write, long overdue, the winning track of Terraria's music contest by Xenon and DJ Sniper has been implemented as a music box. So again, lots of new music. Media really is nothing without music, so I'm looking forward to all of these, including that contest winner. I'm kind of eager to hear that one. Next up, a really strange one, added gnomes. Gnomes! I don't remember coming across this before. I don't know if they're just decor or if they're actually like little living critters that run around. Probably just decor, but who knows. Added a new ultimate sword, a celebration of your journey from beginning to end. You know, I've PTSD from the word celebration based on some earlier Moonlord drops, but I'll keep my fingers crossed about that one. Re-added the lunar drills, which are now rebalanced to offer pros and cons compared to the lunar pickaxes. So these have actually been in the game. A lot of you may know that. They were added with the lunar events, but just never activated in the game. So they've been in the game files, but looks like they finally figured out a way to make some use of them by tweaking, pros and cons between pickaxes and the drills. Added some wind-impacted furniture. Wind chimes, do you think? Wind chimes would be my guess. Achievements now make a sound when unlocked. Who doesn't love that sound? I'm thinking of this sound. And again, who doesn't love that? Next up, the angler now has dialogue that will tell you how many quests you have completed for him. Thank God for that. I still don't know how many I've left to do for that achievement. That's the one achievement in 1.3 I've yet to get. And I feel like I've got hundreds and hundreds of fishing quests done. I'm sure I don't. It just feels that way. So this is going to be a nice addition. Speaking of which, pirate map and snow globe items can now stack to 20. I would say the whole patch is worth it for this alone. If you're in the phase of the game where you're collecting these things, God, it just soaks up inventory space. So that's great. Doors will now automatically open for you when approached. This option can be toggled in the settings. Hopefully just when approached by you and not the pesky guide. Doors will now attempt to open the other way if forward ways are blocked by something. Doors having icicles or other ground-based rubble are now going to break it when you try to open them. So again, smart doors are good doors. I'm all in favor of that. Beehive bees in the jungle will now target enemies as well as the player. Relogic, I believe they're called murder hornets. Murder hornets. Explosive bunnies can now be released as critters and can explode. Can explode or will explode? I have a feeling that they will explode. Redigit, you monster. Moonlord's phantasmal death ray, I didn't know it was called that, will now penetrate blocks that are between it and the player. So no more cheesing. Moonlord will now drop his loot even if you die during his death animation. And that's wonderful because on at least one occasion, probably more than that, I've been burned by that. And it's the worst feeling to make it all that way, only to just miss out on the loot. So yes, that's good. And then the last one for you people with a fear of clowns, evidently they have very little sympathy for you, because look at this I found about the changes to the clown enemy. Damage increased, defense increased, its life has been increased, and they now attack much faster and have explosive happy bombs. So yeah, sorry if you have a fear of clowns, it's not going to be the patch for you. Now the log is huge, as I said, and it has details on lots of bug fixes and balance changes, but if you're curious about anything other than what I've mentioned, just go and read the log. I'm going to link to the post in the video description below if you're curious. If you've got a few minutes, check that out. And as I said earlier, this is the last video I'm posting before the Journey's End videos start, so fingers crossed that the weekend launch goes smoothly, and that of course 1.4 gets patched to consoles and mobile ASAP, because I'm sure you're all on pins and needles waiting for it to get to your versions of Terraria, understandably. At any rate, thanks for watching. Enjoy the patch, everyone, if you get it this weekend, and I will see you on the other side.